everybody, it's Amy, also known as Aussie Stitcher in Texas, here on Flosstube and over on Instagram. I'm here with you today on July 2nd. I'm one day late filming my June update video. This is Flosstube number 38. So welcome everybody. Hello to all my returning viewers and subscribers. Thank you for coming back. Hello to anybody who is new here. I did post 2 days ago my mid-year whip parade. So if you're new from that, there's not a whole lot of update between the 2 days. Really, one day I only stitched once more. I didn't do any stitching yesterday. I was out, which is why I wasn't able to film. But if you didn't watch my mid-year whip parade, this is all new information for you based on what I've stitched on in the month of June. So for June, I stitched on 8 projects in total. One was a new start. I didn't have any finishes. I don't have anything, or at least I didn't have anything close to a finish. I'm closer to a finish now on a couple of pieces, but it'll be probably a good 3 or 4 months before I have another finish, I think, unless the urge strikes me on something as I'm stitching. But let's jump into it. Let's start with my new start. So if you've watched a couple of videos ago, I had bought the kit for the Empyrean sale by Forbidden Fibre Co. I'll pop up a photo of what it looks like when it's finished. I have the kit, so all the kit materials I'm stitching with the called for flosses on the called for fabric. I am doing this on the 28 count lugana. The color is called Feathertail, and I did 2,244 stitches, and here's where I'm up to. So this does not give a lot of margin, which I'm not loving. So I am going to try to stitch in hand to do these side bits. I did kind of put a bit of fabric up the top here to help. And I had something on the side, but I didn't sew it very well, so I pulled it off because it was all ratty. But yeah, I've started Zweigart, one of the dragons, and I think there's Endarna down the bottom. She is fully stitched. And one random R just to finish off the thread that I had on my needle, but all stitching. Hindsight being what it is, I probably should have got the 25 count and then done 1/1. Just because I don't love having very small margins. I much prefer to stitch in a Q-snap, and you need a kind of decent margin to be able to do that. But once I'm in like the more central pieces, which I did most of, it'll be fine in the Q-snap. It's just those kind of edges where I was struggling a little bit, but maybe this is the time to learn to stitch in hand. But that piece, like I said, 2,244 stitches. I'm about a quarter of the way, a little over a quarter. I think there is 6,200 and something stitches if memory serves. But that is fun. Those flosses are great to work with. The Forbidden Fibre Co flosses are very nice. My first time using those flosses as well, so it was a nice surprise. Next up, I worked on, this is not in the actual order of what I worked on them on, it's just what's in the order of my pile. But next up on my pile is Persephone by Mirabilia. I am stitching this on a 32 count lugana in the color Briar Rose by Fabrics by Stephanie. I am not stitching the background. Here is where you saw it the last time. Here is where it was the last time that you saw it, I should say. So I went in, because I'm not doing the background, I put all the back stitching in on her face and her arms and everything. So, and then also worked further down in her dress. But look how good she looks. I love how the back stitching was not fun. I don't love to back stitch, but looks good. And I'll bring you in close. I did the skin 2/2. I've tried 1/1 skin before and just didn't love it enough to put myself through that. But worked on her dress. I think I finished off 1 or 2 colors as well this last time. But I worked on her. She got 2,262 stitches in June. So, and I do have her in Pattern Keeper, so I can count the stitches, which is lovely. I used Stitch Fiddle to rechart all of my paper patterns into it so that I can have it in Pattern Keeper, especially for patterns that go over multiple pages. It just makes my life easier not having to constantly back and forth check that I'm on the right, that I've done the right thing. I make so many less mistakes with digital patterns versus paper, so it's worth the time to me to take that time and chart it in completely. But that was number 2. Number 3 is one of my monthly pieces. This is Alternative Reality by Josephine Wall. I work on this every month for a minimum of 2,000 stitches per month to have it finished in a grand total of 5 years. Here's where it looked like the last time that you saw it. I did 2,050 stitches on this year. Let me make sure my hanging threads are out of the way. But here is where she's up to. Look how good she looks. Oh my God. There we go. Absolutely stunning. And I'll move in close so you can see. Some of the details blow out a little bit the closer you get, but I think it just looks absolutely amazing. Hopefully I'm keeping this in frame now that I'm behind it. So more of her dress come through, more of that horse, just, yeah. The policeman. Ugh, absolutely love it. Sometimes when I'm in those confetti sections, it's a bit of a love-hate relationship, but in the end, it is well worth it. And this aida, this is 18 count aida, I should say 2/1 full cross. And this aida has, because I've been working on this piece for like 2 years now, the aida has softened up immensely. It feels a lot more like a lugana now than, you know, a regular aida fresh out of the box. This next piece though is still kind of crinkly. It's getting softer because it's been over a year. This is Faces of Faery 193 by Jasmine Beckett Griffith. This is another monthly piece that I work on because I want it finished by the end of this year. So this is what it'll look like when it's finished. Here is what it looks like the last time that you saw it. I worked on this for 1,649 stitches. And here's where we're at. So I finished off another couple of colors here because kind of her lips and nose had colors that were just in there. And then really it was over here, this was a lot of confetti up here to get this kind of bauble where the swan goes in. But it looks amazing when you take a step back, especially when, I mean, once it's more filled in, you'll see it, to be able to, for it to look like glass when it's obviously not. It's just different colored threads, but it looks amazing as it comes together. Okay, putting things away as I go, otherwise it'll be a mess. Next up, I think, is one of the Whipco pieces that was called. Yes, so last month's Whipcos were number 21 and 23. This was number 21 for me. This is Hyperborea by Owl Forest Embroidery. That's what it will look like when it's finished. I'm stitching this, I purchased the kit, so all the kit materials, the Owl Forest Embroidery flosses, and the material that came with it. I would have thrown up what it looked like the last time that you saw it. The call was to do 1,000 stitches. I did 1,212, and here's where I'm at. So really a lot of work in that polar bear. But here is, it's a long skinny piece, and then I'll come in close for you. So these threads are great to work on. As I'm sitting awkwardly in my chair, but very nice to work on. Very smooth. They feel a little bit like silk, but they're not. They're just cotton floss, but the Owl Forest Embroidery flosses. And this could also potentially be finished this year if I just kind of worked on it a little bit more regularly. So that could be a contender for a finish. This next one was another Whipco piece, number 23, also to receive 1,000 stitches. This is Cabin in the Woods by Flossabilities. My first Flossabilities piece, I have 2 of her designs. The other one is the Halloween Town, whatever it's called, but the Halloween one. This is stitched on a 32 count Lugana in the color charcoal by Zweigart. Here's what it looked like the last time that you saw it. I got a question mark amount of stitches, 1,063 stitches on this. And look how it comes together and how beautiful those greens play on the fabric. all of the colors really, but those trees in particular just, oh my god, like they look so good on this fabric. I was wondering, and maybe this is something I'll stitch again one day, but instead of the greens, using kind of like a similar tonal pattern, but using like the blues, like 995, you know what I mean? Those blues in the 99s could be interesting and look good on this too, but it would probably take me another couple of years before I stitched a piece again, just because those stars are no joke. But luckily, let me show you again. So all of these stars, individual stitches, but I'm not doing individual stitches. I am carrying, I'm trying to carry where it makes sense so that I carry for as short a distance as possible. And it's not showing through the back, which is really good. So I don't have to worry about that. Okay, my second to last piece, I'm flying through this, 11 minutes, and I'm like almost done, but it is late and I'm hungry. So next one I worked on for the month was Deadly Aquarium by Lola Crow. This is her, it was the last stitch along that she did. Here's what it will look like when it's finished. I like to wait with stitch alongs now. You know, I've matured enough in my stitching life that I'm not letting myself get taken in by FOMO when it comes to stitch alongs. I'm waiting till they're done so that, you know, because there might be one part that I really like, and then as the piece goes on, I realize, you know what, that's not really my style anymore. So I wait until stitch alongs are done to make sure that it's something I like. This is stitched on a 32 count lugana in the color Neptune by Under the Sea Fabrics. I stitched this for however many stitches that are 1,824. I would have thrown up what it looked like the last time that you saw it. So I'm trying to wrangle this a little bit. Here's where we're up to. So I worked more on this far side here. Itchy nose. And finished out the puffin. I finished up that sign and really finished up the whole middle section. So I'm really done from like this panel, if you want to call it, this window over. I just need to double check up top, but I'm pretty much done, back stitch and all. Some of the back stitch in the kelp I'm leaving out just because to my eyes, I'm not seeing an enhancement. So I'm not gonna bother doing it, but probably could have placed this a little better on the fabric, but I did do a center start. I do normally like to do a top left start, but just with the way this piece was shaped, I was worried if I did it wrong and then, you know, I'm not gonna realize till the bottom. And I did also want to get that crocodile done because that was a lot of confetti, and I had heard that from people that it was a lot of confetti. So I was like, let's knock that out, get that over with. And I've done, and it is confetti, but it's not. So it's a lot of colors, but at the same time, it's not like 5 stitches done, 5 stitches done. You can, unless you work in like the blocks of 10, but you could kind of follow, it just went across like 3 or 4 blocks of 10. But you could at least do that, and you weren't constantly stopping and starting. There was like a rhythm you could flow with it, which I'm fine with that for confetti. You know, a couple of stitches, and then there's, you know, 2 or 3 spaces that I can carry my thread across to where it will be covered. That I'm okay with. But when it's, you know, 2 stitches, new color, 2 stitches, new color, 4 stitches, new color, 5 stitches, new color, that's when I get a little tired and just, it feels like I'm not getting progress. And I very much like to get progress on my pieces. And then finally, I know it's not really the month for it, especially here in Texas where it's been 90+ degrees for the past week. I worked on the Pirate by Cottage Garden Samplings. I am stitching this on a 32 count lugana in the color Proserpina from Under the Sea Fabrics. I subbed out the fancy floss that it's called for one I had in stash, which is Strawberry by Color and Cotton, All Classic Colorworks. I can't remember. I got it in a Frogworks box. I would have thrown up what it looked like the last time that you saw it. I got 1,974 stitches on this piece, and here's where we're up to. So a lot more done in that snowman. I've got the full length of the piece. Worked more on his jacket. I got the parrot in. I'm 1 stitch off with the parrot, but because I was like, it's fine. I'm not unstitching the whole parrot just because he's like he should be 1 stitch. more this way or more that way. There's nothing else that it like butted into that I'm like, well, now I need to unstitch it because now all of this stuff is going to be out. I just know I'm not going to use him to count from if I need to count something. I just need to remember that. But yeah, it's not affecting anything else placement wise. So I was like, we're not unpicking that. I don't, you know, it's because we're one stitch out. It's fine. But that is everything that I stitched on in June, which was, for all of you stats people, 14,278 stitches. I had pretty much no stitchy days. My Tuesdays are a little busy. It is a day that I have to be in the office, unfortunately. I mean, but that's life. And then I play Mahjong. So we have a Mahjong league that I play on Tuesdays. So I get home kind of late. So sometimes I want to stitch, sometimes I don't. Last night was one of those nights where I got home quite late for a school night, as they say. So didn't want to stitch, just kind of like showered and put myself to bed. But it was if you don't play Mahjong, it is a very fun game. It is not an inexpensive game to set yourself up with tiles and everything like that, but it is, it's a lot of fun. And I like that I feel like it activates a part of my brain I don't normally use. So that's always good for us, isn't it? Keep the mind active. But that, like I said, that's everything I stitched on. If you're just here for the stitching, I have a little bit of plans news. I don't have any haul. I haven't bought anything that has arrived. I did purchase the Forbidden Fiber Co. Summer Court kit, but they don't start shipping until about the middle of the month. So I'll probably won't have that to show until my August update. But other than that, I haven't bought, you know, a couple of DMC flosses here and there, but that's not haul really, is it? Those are necessities that we have to buy. But my plans, so the WIPGO numbers for July are number 2 and number 16, which for me, number 2 is to work on an Autumn Lane stitchery piece. So I'll work on my Witch's Hallow that I have for only 600 stitches. So I'll see how I go, depending on, you know, 600 I may do more. We'll just see where I'm at as far as how I'm feeling. Then to number 16 is Luca S. So I have The King of Flowers by Luca S. to work on that for 1,000 stitches. So I'll get that in. And then my other 2 monthly pieces are Alternative Reality and Faces of Faery. So they will get their designated timing of 2,000 for Alternative Reality and 1,544 minimum stitches for the Faces of Faery piece. So I will be doing those 2. And then we'll see. I'm feeling very new start. I've got pieces that I'm like, okay, I want to get these started, but then I'm also up to 16 whips, which is the highest I've ever been. And I've got some pieces, I think 2,000 stitches is kind of the lowest I've got to get to a finish. So nothing that's like, oh, I'm only 500 stitches away. I can bang this out in in a weekend. It'll take me a couple of rotations to get through those. So I may or may not do those new starts. If you don't start it, it's not going to finish. You're not going to finish it, right? So as long as I'm not feeling overwhelmed and I'm not with the 16, I just don't want to get to that point where, am I okay with 16 and 17 is what tips me over the edge? Is 20 what tips me over the edge? I don't know. So I'm trying to make that juggle and that balance because I don't want to have that, well, I've got so much to work on, I don't know what to work on, so I won't work on anything. And then I'm just on TikTok for, 8 hours a day when I could be stitching. So we shall see. But there are things I want to start. So, I've got to start them in order to get them finished. But we shall see what happens. But thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for making it this far. If you did, it's a very short one today, less than 20 minutes. But I hope you enjoyed it. If you could like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. I post monthly updates and I hope to see you next time. But happy stitching everybody. Bye.